Hi there, and welcome to Season 3 of the Humans and AI podcast. In this podcast, we dive into the real-life stories of the top leaders and entrepreneurs within the artificial intelligence, high-performance computing and data center space. These people truly are at the top of their game. We've got honest and authentic conversations with our guests. We're going to chat about their career journeys, the highs and the lows, and even the lessons they've learned from their mistakes, and the victories they've celebrated along the way. It's all about sharing their experience and knowledge. We talk about the company they're currently in and how they see the future of the space. So if you're looking for practical advice from people who have walked the same path, or just a little inspiration, you're in the right place. We're going to be releasing new episodes on Thursday at 12, so make sure you stay tuned. Hey Adam, great to have you. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Nick. Great to be here.
Fantastic. Well, look, just for the benefit of everybody that's listening and watching, do you mind just giving an introduction to yourself, your current role, and the company you're working for, more like a helicopter view?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Adam Williams. I'm the Chief Growth Officer at Edgelogix. We're an AI consultancy group based in the US.
Fantastic, brilliant. And just before we go into too much detail, I mean, Chief Growth Officer, it's a relatively new term in recent years. What does it mean to you guys?
Yeah, I joined the company. I'm not employee number one or anything like that, but I joined Edgelogix to scale, right? So we have clients, we have prospects, and my job over the next 12 months is to kind of take us to that next level. And so it could have been, I've been CRO before, Chief Revenue Officer. This has less to do about revenue. Revenue is important. It's about growth of the business, right? About, landing more, again, kind of growing at scale, right? How do we take 10, 15 clients and make it 100 clients? And so it just growth. I agree with you. The C-level names nowadays are kind of funny, right? Everyone has something different, but chief growth. So I'm focused on scaling the sales engine, sales and marketing, but mostly the sales engine.
Fantastic. Well, we'll go into more detail about where you are and what you're doing now in a bit. But yeah, let's take it back to the beginning if you don't mind, because obviously you've been in sales a long time. You've worked across the industries a fair bit and been in hosting, as we talked about. How did it all start?
Yeah, you know what? This is funny because even like when I do interviews and things like that back in the day, I actually started as a teacher and a coach at a high school. So I was a high school history teacher in the US, and a wrestling coach, my favorite sport. I stayed in that around 5 years, and then man, I got into technology, right? And fortunately for me, they say better to be lucky than good. Sometimes I've been lucky a lot. That coaching mentality has kind of stuck with me, and so look, I joined this little email company way back. You're talking about in the beginning, an email company, as sexy as that sounds, that's exactly it. Um, Anyways, we're looking for a hosting provider. I'd been with another company, and our one client paid their bills, which we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
They paid the bills. We made our salary, made our payroll. That company was Rackspace. So, anyways, I joined a company. We're selling email. We need a new hosting provider. We go to Rackspace. We become their largest client, and they buy us in 2007,
Oh wow.
right? Which got me kind of fully into the hosting industry. Stayed at Rackspace for a long time. Got to come to London for a little bit, and then in the hosting industry until a couple months ago, actually, where I was asked to join Edgelogix. So that's what brought me here.
I know Rackspace. I've recruited with Rackspace, for many years, and obviously Katie Fox is in my team here. She used to work there as well, and in fact, there's a number of my old colleagues that work there now. It's a great organisation. It's had its ups and downs like every company.
Yes.
Hosting is and cloud MSP world is an exciting sort of space, but you held quite a lot of roles there as well, didn't you? So how did that sort of shape you really? Because I think you've
Yeah.
worked in sales,
Well,
marketing, product.
yeah. So honestly, I was brought into webmail to help scale, right? So took our direct model and really grew out our channel, our reseller, to where it was 60% of our monthly revenue was coming from our partners, right? So we're doing that. And honestly, we did that. We were doing really well. Once we got bought, we were in Blacksburg, Virginia, and San Antonio is where Rackspace is based. I love San Antonio. The food's amazing. The people are great. I have no interest to live in San Antonio, so I stayed back. And honestly, it was a great career move. It got me into product.
Yep.
So the other side instead of sales and channel and things like that, which is great dealing with Microsoft and BlackBerry back in the day. But it also, I remember 2013, we're sitting around a room and we're like, hey, we need to like, how do we take our business more global? Rackspace is global. Our part of the business is not. Like we have this office in the UK, but it's kind of, it's dying, right? And so like, you know what? I would love to try it, right? Let me go over there, and if we can turn it around, we'll turn it around. If we need to like shut it down and run from the US, we'll do whatever, but give me 18, 24 months to go do it. So that got me to London, where I was the GM of our little cloud office, our little group. And you know what, man? Like the group that was able to surround myself with, Jonathan Liu is one of these guys. Katie Fox actually sent me my offer letter to go from Rackspace to Rackspace UK.
Okay.
But again, it goes back to lucky and just it's, this theme will go through my career. It's always about people. We were, to use an American phrase, like the redheaded stepchild. No, they were not, they were actually told not to sell email at Rackspace UK.
Yeah.
Like that's just where the relationship had gotten to. I don't know why. All I know is I land and we are losing money every month. And so it's like, all right, like, what are you going to do? Right? Either get after it, work hard, or fold up and go back to the US. And so, anyways, we decided, hey, let's make a go of it. We bought little Staples easy buttons,
Hmm.
right? Like that was easy. You know what?
Yep.
We went up, Lou and I went up to the sales force, started doing training, right? We got them selling email again, and every time they sold an email deal, you know what they hit? That was easy button. And all of a sudden, you have an entire sales floor, and all you're hearing is that was easy. It's like, what the hell is going on? Oh, they're selling email because that was easy. And I don't know where the idea came from, probably Jonathan. But it's just tons of fun. So, anyways, GM there um, got called back to the US for a couple reasons, just more family wise.
Hmm.
Came back, got pulled into Microsoft, which was a ton of fun,
Yeah.
except you're part of 115, at the time, 115,000. I do well, small group. Um, anyway, so I did Microsoft. Rackspace asked me to come back and run that little division
Hmm.
that I had left
Oh
in the
wow.
US. I got to do that. Selling email again, man. Like I made, I'm 52. I've made most of the money in my life selling email of all
Email.
things.
Keep it
Email.
simple. People
Yeah,
need it.
you know what, man? And it's like me, right? Not sexy at all. It's very simple, but, that kind of thing. Like just, it's common and everybody needs it, right? And so I love that part about email is a great conversation like to have with clients because your website could go down and you're okay. You lose your email, access to your email, and you lose your mind,
Yeah, you
right? And
can't
so
talk
we
to
were,
them. It's like cutting off your arm.
yeah, it really is. And it still is. There are articles every 2 years about the death of email,
Hmm.
right? From Slack and other things. Email's not going anywhere, not for a while. Like it's a great way to document, communicate, all those type of
And
things.
and so just going back to sort of about you and some of your involvement, because obviously you talked about being a teacher at the beginning, and so obviously that gives you a certain set of soft skills to engage and motivate and coach and teach people. Obviously, you coach outside of that with wrestling. It's definitely not WF wrestling, is it?
No, no kidding.
No, as well. So, and then you obviously building the teams and culture and coaching. They work quite well together. And I think one thing
Yeah.
Rackspace, I always thought did a great thing. Yeah, maybe not to everybody's taste, but I like the culture. The whole Racker mentality, the straight jackets. I remember back in the day. I remember walking through the office in Hayes, and you saw flags above everybody's desk, from where they're
Is it?
from, and there was just everybody, and there was a big sort of vibe, and you had the old Mini Cooper in the middle, and you had the phone box. It was a great environment to be in, right? But also
Amazing.
you're building success, and it was a big sales floor, and it was
Yeah.
buoyant. So, whilst I appreciate you've got that big atmosphere, you've got this lovely room, performance was down. So, was that about coaching? Was it about going back to basics and simplifying to create success?
Yeah. Look, again, it's always about people,
Hmm.
right? And the coaching, the teaching part of that makes up me, who I am, is I really, and for some reason have been given a skill where I can find what makes people tick, right? What resonates. Sometimes it's money. And I mean this from team building and then as you expand that out. Like I remember, I don't know how many years ago, my dad's dead, but like years and years ago, I told him, I was like, I don't like sales. And he looks at me, he's like, everybody's selling, right?
Hmm.
He's like, you need to change your approach and how you think about my view of salespeople is different. It's like, you know what? All of my salespeople, the most successful ones, Nick, have been great at conversations.
Yeah.
Right? So for us, like it's about the people on the team. Let's say, hey, I'm here. We're going to do this together, right? I'm going to lead from the front. We're going to take our hits. And when we have success, we're going to celebrate. When we take our losses, we're going to figure out what went wrong. We won't do it again. Like it's all about us. And you can ask folks around that knew us, like we created a thing where all of a sudden I was losing people. They were taking demotions when I joined, taking demotions to stay at Rackspace, but they would take less money in a different job just to leave the group, right? That's where it got to.
Yeah.
Where within a year we had just people like, how can we join? How can we part of the team? I don't care what role, what can we do to be part of the team? That was like we knew, right? Jonathan and I knew like, hey, we're doing something right. people want to be here.
Mhm.
And so look, you break it down again. It's about the people and it's about understanding what motivates you. And you
Mhm.
can take that to a client, right? I don't need to sell you anything. I just need to understand what's going on in your world. Same thing I'm doing now at Edgelogix, right? It's like, hey, I don't care about AI or data or
Mhm.
whatever. I care about the client in front of me. They have an issue. If we can solve that in a way that like moves the needle for them and makes a
Mhm.
difference, done. Love it. Let's talk about that.
Fantastic. So, just finishing off your Rackspace tenure, obviously you're back in the US, you're then running your team again. I
Yep.
mean, where did you take it from and to?
Yeah, so this is pre-COVID. Um, I think I'd kind of done my time at Rackspace, right? Like I'd gone back and forth a couple times. I'm back in the States. A smaller competitor called Liquid Web
Yep.
hired their first chief revenue officer, right? What was awesome for me was a bunch of ex-Rackers over there. They bought a division of Rackspace, a bunch of ex-Rackers. I knew the people, Courtney Scarta, right? Just good people. And so did that. And then I was like, man, okay, I'm doing my self-talk, right? Like, I need to do something else besides hosting for a little bit. And so I went out and consulted for around 18 months.
Mhm.
And then, daggone it, one of my, Amar Patel, who I worked for at Rackspace, he's a US guy, but he was at Rackspace when I was there. I reported to him. He's selling a company, a hosting company, and needs someone to kind of get in and kind of shore up the base of
Mhm.
accounts, not only the culture that's going on within the employees that are doing it, but also our clients. So I did that. We got sold. Um, that company, I stayed with them for another year. I think I've done my passport stamp on hosting, and I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I'm glad Amar brought me back again. Got to work with just some amazing
Mhm.
folks, people that I care for deeply, right, and still want to make sure that I'm talking to and reaching out to as much as possible. But it was time for me to kind of do something else.
So we've done hosting. We love it,
Yeah.
but it's firmly in the past at the moment, as it stands.
Yes, Amar, someone of my, I have three mentors, unless one of them comes up and says like, "Hey, we got to go do something, and I need your
Yeah,
help." It's like, all right, let's go. Let's see what we got.
fair enough. So great, Ted. Built loads of sort of skills: how to be a leader, how to shore up sales organizations, how to create confidence in the customer base, and then where did you go from there?
Yeah. So again, one of my three mentors, a guy named Matt Stoika, he and I reported to him at Rackspace in my last stint, kind of doing some stuff. Um, and he and I, like I do with my other two mentors, is we talk around once a quarter, right? So we've been since and I left Rackspace in 2019, right? 2020, March of 2020, as COVID hit, by
Yeah.
the way. Like I Liquid Web as I'm leaving San Francisco as they're shutting that airport down, basically. But anyways, Matt and I keep in touch. He's invested in a couple things. He's a serial entrepreneur, but also a serial CEO. Anyways, like we've been talking about different companies that he had been uh, behind and things like that. And Edgelogix was one of them. We talked about it last summer. It just wasn't ready for me. They had some clients and they were still building. And so he and I got to talking. And then he introduced me to the CEO, a guy named Josh Siegel, who's just a guy's guy. I
Yeah.
we immediately connected, right? That we care about people more than anything else. The rest of it will flow
Mhm.
from there. Build a team together. Let's build a company together, kind of thing. So Stoica introduced us. From there, Josh and I have just taken off, right? So that's in from a edge getting into Edge Logic. That's how it came
Yeah.
about.
So that and I guess coming in as the chief growth officer, that relationship with the CEO, like I suppose that's vital for your success in this role and getting that working and seeing belief in the mission.
Like it's they always say like you don't quit jobs, you quit managers and stuff
Hmm.
like that. I think that's part true, but
Yeah.
I do think yeah, I do think it's about the people that you have to look, man. If we're going to get in the trenches, if we're going to climb a mountain,
Mm.
if we're going to do whatever, you want someone beside you that is going to give it as much as you are, right? Because all of us have been in a spot where we're not, and that's just like I think all of us from the going through the pandemic, just as we've gotten older, whatever it is, I'm Gen X. Like you get to a point where like I don't want to do that anymore,
Hmm.
right? Like I'm going to go do this because I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I want, and really need someone beside me or a group beside me that's going to work just like, again, I'm the dumbest guy in the room. Like not even close to like, don't be the smart, like I'm surrounded by people that are just like amazing and I love it. So
So let's talk about the business. Let's
yeah.
talk about what is it? What are the services? What are the solutions? What are the pain points that you're trying to sort of cure?
Yeah, well, I mean, like foundation, it's kind of like where Edgelogix came about is that our clients and prospects, right, they're being asked by their board or their stakeholders, how are you going to leverage, utilize AI in your business, right? Pretty good question, right? Especially with all the hype and all everything we hear. But honest answer is they don't know. Right. And so Edgelogix has a wonderful ability to kind of go, it's like, hey, let's talk about this. Look, more often than not, Nick, it becomes a data issue, right? AI is AI. AI is like cloud, right? It's AI, it's everywhere like that. And look, we do build AI technology, but at the end of the day, a lot of it's around data, right? And so look, our clients been asked how do you plan to utilize AI? They don't know. We can help them. We do workshops, we do readiness, things like that. They're also like being pitched. Everybody's an AI expert,
Yeah.
right? Anyone that tells you they're an AI expert, I'm sorry, they're not telling the truth because no one is. It's moving at pace. Like it's just you can't be. You can be really good at different technologies. You can know your stuff. You can know your business and your capabilities, but no one's really an AI expert. And at EdgeLogix, a lot of what we're coming on the back end of is that these clients have been sold AI proof of concepts. Oh my goodness, man. That's just a fancy way of saying, hey, can you help fund development for my little project?
Yep.
Right? Like
Absolutely.
we don't do POCs,
Mhm.
right? When we do stuff, we do little sprints, but there's a deliverable, like an actual functional value add at the end of it, just because the proof of concept is an old school way, and I think it's done.
So you're
So
doing a lot of this advisory work. You're going in and you're looking under the bonnet. You're doing this sort of diagnostic about where you currently are with your tech stack and how can AI help you. Is that essentially it?
yeah, so we like to call it like operational intelligence,
Hmm.
right? So we can do the advisory and we're also a product company. Like we can build, right? And we can talk about it as we go through. We try to like make it easy to kind of digest kind of what we do. But like by operational intelligence, right, we're going to design these AI native systems, right, to connect strategy, data, and execution, right? At the end of the day is like, what are you trying to solve,
Hmm.
right? It can be with a widget or a group of widgets or a process or foundation, whatever it is. Like we're not really trying to optimize the old. We're building something new for the client. So for us, it's like we'll do the advisory, we'll have that path, and then from there, where do we need to go down? What's the highest priority, right? What needs to be fixed first? Is it foundational that everything's broken, right? Or all your data's in a bunch of different places, things like that. So when you think of Edge Logics, like think of us like advisory and also a product company. That product though is going to be defined by the client. That makes
So,
sense.
so I suppose, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but I imagine a lot of the time when you're meeting a customer for the first time, they're just a bit confused. So they really sort of know, what they need and what it needs to look like.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating, man, because it's a really wonderful conversation to have,
Hmm.
right? Because I'm not going to sell you anything right now,
Hmm.
right? One, you're getting pitched by the shiny ball, all the different things out there, AI this, AI that, things like that. Like I'm coming in, it's like, hey, where's the pain point? Talking to a healthcare company, and right, they have a group of people sitting in a room, right? Which I say, what's pain point in healthcare? What's going on in your day to day business, right? Well, we have a room full of people, and all they do in the U.S., all they do is call the big insurance companies and get surgeries pre-authorized, and it takes hours to get each one. It's like, oh, and we're losing people because we can't pay them a lot, and so they go on to different jobs. It's like, how about we build for you a process that does that pre-authorization? Right? It'll allow you, you still need people doing some things, but it'll allow you to not worry about backfilling. That you can have some transient employees, right? That's
Hmm.
okay. But that process can help, it'll pay for itself because literally it'll take the hours that it took to call United,
Yeah.
Anthem, Blue Cross and reduce it down to minutes,
Wow.
right? Like that is a pretty cool conversation.
Yeah.
You know what? Sold something, right? Like that's,
Hmm.
it's kind of cool. It was a solution. Didn't know what it was going to be till we got in and started having the discussion. Like, hey, it's like, this is a major pain point for us kind of things. Like it's a waste of time and resources, and we spend a lot of time just trying to get that team filled and people coming in training things like that. It's like, oh, got it,
So,
great.
at the risk of being controversial,
Yeah,
is when you go into these conversations, is it usually then talking about challenges that are really relating back to people, so and the workflows, and then it's actually how do you make them more efficient?
yeah. So because I am in the camp where I don't think that AI necessarily needs to replace people.
Yeah.
I think,
Hmm.
in my personal experiences, I've been kind of living into it. It has made me more efficient,
Hmm.
right? So I think for us, it's much more we look at processes that are
Hmm.
broken or manual, because I do think that the AI can actually help. Like you still need human involvement,
Yeah, of course.
right? You need human guidance. And I don't know if it's controversial or not, because again, I'm not trying to replace roles, but I am looking at processes where if you're paying someone a salary, right? You want to get the most out of that person. They want to be challenged. They want to have like a great job as well, right? Help them be more efficient so they don't feel like they're beating their head against the wall. All of a sudden, a room of 20 can go to a room of five because they're very efficient, right? And they're
Hmm.
more engaged, probably better for the patients as well in that
Yep.
example with healthcare, right? Because things are happening much faster, right?
No, to be fair, I'm due for an op. Actually, ironically, this Thursday, I've been having to ring around, book all these appointments, and make sure
Yeah,
each team's talking to the other team.
yeah,
It's a bit of a pain, and there's always somebody else that you're talking to. So, from a user perspective,
yeah.
I would love to see something like that.
Yeah, look, I think that our job, at the end of the day, any of us that are kind of in this AI ecosystem, right, we're cognizant of the bigger picture, right? It's not about solving for a company, but it's also the people that use it, the people that consume it, right? Like the patients in that case, but the consumer, right? How do you help retail, right? Helping a franchise group kind of rebuild their entire platform. A big element of that is that customer experience that was not thought of
Hmm.
very much. They had great food, right? But the presentation, the ease of ordering, the ease of changing was not thought of. And so we're actually building that into the platform and then using AI to kind of learn, right? Take all those points and they get better each month, kind of stuff like that. But that for us was a big component. We had a client that was paying, right? What we also needed is to make sure that the people that were consuming and using that, right? Also in this case, the franchisees, right? It was a good experience. You can't just have one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're having a lot of conversations, speaking to a lot of different businesses across healthcare and probably other sectors as well. Just, I suppose, really, with all the different conversations that you're having, you're speaking to people in different sectors. Well, you just said, obviously, healthcare, retail, but how are you seeing sort of business look at operationalizing AI?
Yeah,
And I suppose if
yeah.
there's any common trends, really.
Yeah, there are some common trends,
Mm.
right? We're seeing people that went from AI as a tool,
Hmm.
right, to AI as like infrastructure. So they're starting to think bigger. You're starting to see a lot more like AI committees,
Yeah.
right? Because what's happening is, I don't care who you are, you're being approached by, we have an AI tool for you that's designed for you, whether it's niche or whatever stuff like that. And so they're having to kind of wade through a bunch of like noise, if you will. Again, this is where the
Hmm.
proof of concept comes up. And so we are seeing some good trends to where people are at least aware and they are knowledgeable that they need to have some thought and process around, can we use AI? Should we use AI in our business? If you answer yes to those, how are we going to use AI? And again, this is where we kind of help kind of map that journey and kind of what it looks like. So we're definitely seeing a trend where it was like they're buying tools. Now they're folks are starting to think a little bit bigger picture, right? More tools, infrastructure kind of thing. Um, yeah, I mean, again, and back in the day, people were buying like one-offs, right? They're buying an app, right, or a SaaS product, things like that.
And I think, yeah, with AI and businesses now who are maybe not so knowledgeable about AI, but you hear
Mhm.
AI and you think, shit, that's expensive.
Yeah,
so so
or is it, right?
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
so it's obviously a big investment. So but is the investment often as terrifying and as large as they think it is? And actually, how quick is it to claw that money back before it actually starts creating value and profitable?
Yeah, see, this is where it gets really interesting, man. And this is where I think that AI flips the script on stuff. Because I think that we should be approaching this from a efficiency point of view. And at least on our side, when we're talking about what things cost, they have a cost, right? And we actually have a model called RAS, like re results as a service. And so if it doesn't produce, you don't pay, right? Which we love that kind of concept. Um, and just because at the end of the day, it needs to be around outcomes
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, and that's, and so many companies just aren't, right? They're still kind of doing these little one-offs kind of thing. And so for us, like we're focused on, again, on this RAS model, like if it doesn't, like I said, we're going to agree upon APIs or KPIs and metrics. And if it doesn't match those, then hey, you know what? You don't get to pay or you don't have to pay. And when I'm talking to clients, a lot of it's like, we're going to talk about speed of ROI, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
conversation you should have. Take, for example, right, that company, right, that the healthcare that needed optimization there. There is gonna be some reduction in headcount that was happening anyways, but also just efficiency of time, right? So there's a number of mathematical equations that go into this, like this pays for itself in 6 months, or in 9 months, or in 1 month, or a year, whatever it needs to be. Every conversation that I have, it should be, how is this going to pay for itself, right? That's where AI should be.
I completely agree. And obviously, with now in the market there being, AI. every conversation. So there's consulting firms out there. People are getting pitched and sold to left, right, and centre. How do you separate yourself from the rest to actually show value and knowledge without over pitching?
Yeah, look, I love the question because I do think that the old model in consulting, right? If you take two parts of the business, right? Don't let's set aside the building, just the advisory side. We see the old consulting model of advice and PowerPoints is dying or dead, right? It's just people need more than that. And so for us, we're going in and we're not talking about like I can send you a wonderful PowerPoint, right? But at the end of the day, it's about what we're gonna the outcome that we'll deliver for you that matters more. And so our conversations are not about hey, this looks great in concept. This looks great as an idea, right? Our advice to you is this, like, no, this is what you should do, and this is why, and this is what we're going to build for you in 30 days, and this is how what it looks like, and this is where we're going to agree on what it delivers for you, right? So from our side, like on the consulting group, like it's just, man, it's just that old model. I don't see how it survives in this AI kind of landscape, right? It can't be we do a workshop and out of it you get a report that gives you some best practice
Yeah.
ideas. Like I think that's wonderful, man. I don't think it does enough anymore.
And then so taking obviously that advisory consulting model, you to evolve that, you've productized it. I
Yeah.
guess so. Yeah, and I guess that's not we've learned from all our customers, and we've built products that seem to be a common theme. It's a product of a services, I presume, and then you can go out and build something for each company. Or how have you done it?
Yeah. So the way that we kind of thought about it, because we don't, I'm actually doing, I have to do a client call later on today and it got introduced as a demo. I'm like, oh man, we don't do, like, I don't have anything to demo. Right. So, but what we did is we kind of looked at what we can offer and what we can bring to bear. And we call it like Edge Stack. Right. So again, we're pretty clever with our naming conventions and stuff like that. But then within Edge Stack, like this is what we go build, right? After the advisory, we have like, the story of Goldilocks, right? We have three different levels. We have like Edge Start, right? This is like a 30 to 45 day, like we need something quick. It's a pain point. We need it fixed immediately. It's a top priority. Boom, we get in and we fix it. Here's the deliverable, right? Which actually makes sense. So we love the Edge Starts, but think of it as like just little projects, right? And then you have that next level up. It's called Edge Works, right? Which is kind of cool. It's like, hey, there's a process broken. And it might be that we layer in something off the shelf and then build around it through AI, whatnot, but it's like it's a process that needs to be had.
Mhm.
That's going to take probably a couple of those sprints, right? So
Yeah.
you have something pretty quick. There's the main pain point. Hey, this is a process. It's going to take a little bit of time. And then the third one, this is where we do a lot of our work, is called Edge OS, right? And this is like foundationally, we're going to build like for this company from the not from the ground up of everything, but we're going to tie it all together, right? Going back to that like franchise group, right? They have 100 stores. They have no way today to like monitor inventory, right? So they ran out of certain ingredients. It's not tied into client experience whatsoever, right? Or invoicing. And so we're literally building them a platform that they can then leverage and then not only scale to more franchises, right? But it ties in inventory management, right? Those kind of things, logistics. It ties in the client experience and the engagement and how they're collecting that data and how they want to use that data, right? And so for us, that's Edge OS. That is building foundationally something for this business, something for this client. That could take, it's going to take weeks, months, and then it'll be ongoing, right? And this is all three of these, Nick, by the way. I don't want to sound like a sales pitch, but I love, but I'm a sales guy, right? The whole RAS model. When I tell you, like, man, if we don't produce results, you don't pay. It's a pretty easy discussion, right? And that's right, like all of it. Edge Start, Edge Works, Edge OS, like they're KPIs. If it's not meeting those KPIs, you're not paying, right? Like there's a cost to build and there's a cost to maintain and things like that. We feel that that is the way that the business should be run, right? We're putting the skin in the game. We know what we can do. We have the capable folks, and I would hope that other uh, folks like competitors even like that try to adapt that model because if you perform, you're good, right? Like you're in a great place, right?
Absolutely. I mean, to be fair, obviously recruitment, contingency recruitment is built on that, right? You spend a lot of time working, a lot of time understanding the customer, and it takes a long time and eventually get paid.
Yeah.
Obviously you have different models, as I'm sure you do too. But RAS, it is a high risk strategy from you guys, right? Because obviously, like you said, but you are investing, you are putting skin in the game. So how do you, as a business that is trying to build excellence and create a great service for your clients, how do you mitigate that risk?
Don't always say yes, right? Like that's a role that I think
Hmm.
that people should embrace, right? It's
Yeah.
okay. Because even some of these projects I'm telling you about, like we said no to others, or like the KPIs, right, need to be agreed upon. They can't be like, hey, Adam, I'm expecting 100% return on this within 30 days. Like, impossible, right? Like, and so again, the partnership angle of like, hey, we're going to build this for you because we know what's going on in your world and your business and what makes sense. And the ability to say, you know what, it doesn't fit our skill set, right? Like part of what I'm doing in the last couple months is I'm also building out our like we don't won't always do work, right? Like there's certain things that we might not be able to do well. I don't have it on the bench, and I'll need partners, right, to go do it. I'm finding and vetting those partners, right? Where it could be like, hey, you got the whole project. I'll kick it off to them, introduce them, bring them in. They can do part of it, or it might be all us. At the end of the day, I don't care as long as the client is being taken care of, kind of thing. And if all those, hey, we still can't get to a point where we're satisfying the client, can't build for them, hey, let's get you to someone that can.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, obviously, we talked about what a chief growth officer is in your organization. Is, revenue important, but it's less about revenue, more around sales and marketing, and more on sales, but for growth, creating growth. How does that translate into a better service necessarily for the clients? So, because I think ultimately, growth comes from more customers, giving them great experience, getting them working with you. How do you actually come in there and build that yourself?
Yeah, so man, I love the question. And like, I got fortunate. I've been on the front end of sales for a long time. When Amar Patel brought me in to connect, we go on the backside, right? Existing client base. I've run both. Don't overpromise, right? When I talk about growth, right, we're going to grow the right way. We're going to say no to certain clients. We're going to over pursue. We're going to go after certain ones that we know that can move the needle for us and for others and be able to talk about us and things like that. But like, just do what you say you're going to do and don't overpromise. I think that is when I talk about growth. Look, it'll take a little bit of time. I will tell you that I feel like in the last couple months, we're now at a point where I feel like I'm on top of a mountain getting ready to push a snowball down, right? 'Cause the momentum feels there, the conversations are resonating, things like that. But I haven't overpromised, right? And I'm not saying I'm like there's so many companies right out there. It's like AI will do everything. We're an expert like what? It's like, man, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I'm gonna figure it out. We'll figure it out. I have the right people behind me. My job is to get everyone in the room, right? To make sure that we're doing discovery and things like that. And we're not gonna ever commit to something that we can't deliver on.
And you talked about this offline, and you made a comment about it during this episode. You talked about being the dumbest person in the room, and it is, and it's great. We always hear it. It is about bringing great people around you. Do you think you've done that? Do you think you've just got this great core that can actually really deliver excellence for customers?
I have extreme confidence going in talking with any clients in any vertical, just because I know the group behind me, their experience, their years of building, some in AI and just others from AWS, GCP. Like we have it all on the bench. Like, and I will tell you, man, like I've been around long enough where I haven't always had that confidence. I've had to fake that confidence in a couple of years ago. Here, I like again, it allows me to just again man, my mandate is go have those conversations. Action, right? Action. Talk to people. Through those conversations, inevitably, right, are coming up are opportunities. And then we take those opportunities and turn those into like, right, how can we best serve this client kind of thing. But yeah, like the group around us is, or group around me is incredibly, I'm very, very fortunate.
And where do you see the business going? So obviously we talk about AI, and talk to people about AI all the time, and nobody can really put a finger on where AI is going to be. I mean, ChatGPT really sort of skyrocketed AI, and that was what 2022, I think it was. I'm losing track. Time's flying by. Right. No one knows what the end of this year is going to look like, really, what next year is going to look like. But you have to be agile, and you've got to
Yeah.
be have your eyes open all the time to adapt. But as a consulting firm and that's delivering a service and helping customers embrace AI, how do you see your expertise evolving to provide new solutions constantly for clients?
Yeah, look, love the question. I would say that on our side, we kind of have this internal mandate that we're using AI, right? We don't talk about ChatGPT like I'm literally in it or Claude, and we use Gamma. Like we're using every tool that we can, and what we're trying to do, it's impossible. Anyone tells you it is, we're trying to like stay as informed as possible, and we're making this part of our daily lives because we know that as we talk with clients, they're facing the same things. They're having the same questions. We're just making sure that part of our role, part of our job is like, hey, we've been doing this, right? Like Josh, my CEO, spent a year basically just embedded in chat and a couple of these. Uh, his prompts are like world-class poetry to me. Like I have never seen a guy like give me kind of go through. So anyways, when you're asking where we're going to go, like I don't know if anyone has, I know that our goal is to be there for clients and we will continue to evolve right where it is. We've gotten to a good point where we can talk about, we can productize like what we do. We know why clients are coming to us. In a couple of years, a lot of clients are gonna, like they'll have their AI strategy, right? And so that for us, that's less of like we can maybe validate it, but what maybe we pivot more to that product side, like, hey, we can build it for you, and here's the what we've done for all these clients in the past, kind of thing.
And just taking on to your two verticals, so you've gone down the retail and healthcare route, and primarily, well, different reasons, but you mentioned obviously there's so much data involved, so obviously. But I imagine there are retail businesses, there are healthcare organisations that haven't at all embraced AI,
No.
and what is the risk? What is the negative connotation to just letting that pass by? I think sometimes better the devil you know and just stick with what you're doing. Sometimes people feel that way. It's more comfortable. Is that dangerous?
Yeah, man, I think it is just because I think the world that we live in, right? It is moving. It's been all of our, you and I don't care what age you are, but like in our lifetimes, technology has moved at breathtaking speed. AI is taking that and just on steroids, right? And so not having some type of thought or daily engagement, right? Or, process like, or whatever you want to do, like incorporating learning about AI, having an AI committee, right? Seeing how AI can make you better, smarter, faster, things like that. I think it is dangerous. I think it is a mistake. And I think that every company should look, it's not on me to tell people to embrace it, but I do think that everyone should evaluate, right? How can this make our company a little bit better? Um, I attended a conference back in March in Vegas called Human X. It was the first one. All the big players from AI are there. Politicians were there. It was really kind of cool. And I think one of them, it's a great saying, every like major increase in GDP in the US has been led by something like some type of technology, and AI is going to be what it is here, right? And so it's if you're not using it or thinking how to use it, I can guarantee you that your competitors are. I'm not a FUD guy, um, right? But I do think that's why I literally get up in the morning, have a bunch of different AI things that I do, Centra, little 12 little bots that keep me up to date on stuff and things like that.
And just so going back to the actual business then that where you're working now, and I think a lot of people that listen to this podcast are AI tech companies, infrastructure, neo cloud type organizations. A lot of them are startups.
Yeah,
Sometimes startups moving into scale ups. You're a C-level sort of exec in this business, trying to make it grow.
yep,
What are the sort of key sort of things that you see that you must do to help grow a business? Because I think that's the thing. I think people sometimes, it's a lonely job when you're at the top. If
yeah.
you've got a CEO or a COO around you, you're quite lucky because sometimes it's just you on your own. Um,
Yep.
what do you do to actually sort of create that successful business direction and strategy?
Look, one, ask for help. Right? Reach out. You should. It is lonely. It doesn't have to be. Like even in my world, like Josh and I speak 10 times a day. He's in Vegas. I'm in Virginia, right? So we're always in the team or, have a bunch of different team things and stuff like that. But I'm also like seeking advice.
Mhm.
And I'm doing a lot of like, hey, does this even make sense? Am I crazy for saying this out loud? Kind of thing. So when I think about all these AI startups and things like that, I think that there will be consolidation, right? And just the history of businesses, there are going to be a lot of these that probably won't make it, right? For not, and honestly, sometimes for just stupid reasons, right? Just bad timing, ran out of funds or whatever, needed to go get a job, whatever it was. But don't try to like collaborate. There's a wealth of information, and there's so many people that are trying to like figure things out. You'd be amazed when you have these conversations like, oh, I had that same exact problem. This is what I did, right? To help. So I'm doing a lot of that. I'm much more on the front end of asking for help, right? I hope to get to the point where like I can actually offer things in return, right? I think that's how it's supposed to go. And so my advice to these AI, especially the startups, is like um, embrace collaboration, right? Talk to other companies what they're doing. And I would say that a lot of times, going back to it, Nick, we're still seeing a bunch of clients are being pitched like an item, an
Mhm.
app, right? A fix. And it does, it solves something. The problem is like clients are starting to think more infrastructure, right? They're thinking more big picture, slowly but surely, right? And getting an app solves something, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem around
Yeah.
process and things like that. And so by teaming up with a couple of these, I guarantee you could have some interesting solutions. You probably expand your attainable market.
And One last question before we go. So, just thinking about you as a sales leader over the years, different environments. We talked about the sales floor at Rackspace, and don't know whether you beat the gong. We certainly did in recruitment. Every time a deal was done. Yeah, the world's evolved now. We're all working in startup, scale up type businesses. You don't have to have a 50-person sales floor, to be successful and profitable. And also largely it's hybrid world, remote world, right? So you just talked
Yeah.
about, you're in two, you and your CEO, two different parts of the US, not,
Yep.
that kind of thing. How do you create a buzzing sales organization, through a virtual sort of world and actually create that momentum?
Yeah, look, I'll talk about that one just the same way that I approached it when I've been remote for almost 20 years, with the exception of my 18 months living in London. But you can ask someone could ask anyone that's ever reported into me. They feel like I'm there, right? Like I'm accessible, right? My calendar's always open and up to date, right? When you talk about celebrating, we celebrate in the moment, right? Just because we're a place where we can do a gong, we have Slack, we have email, we have our meetings and huddles, stuff like that. We make sure that we're not just coming into a business and let's talk about these five boring agenda items. Like let's celebrate kind of what's going on. But look, the key there is nothing. It's nothing to do with AI, right? In this diverse world where you're working, you're traveling, you have home offices, whatnot, be accessible, man. Like that is the key. It should seem like I'm in the cubicle next to you, right? Like that's how easy it should be to get in touch with folks and celebrate the wins or ask for help, right? Either one is incredibly important.
I think, and that's great because actually I see so many people get that wrong, and when I speak to candidates looking for a job, it's, done remote, but it doesn't work in the environment. I just feel on my own, feel quite lonely, and that's as an AE or an account director. So
Yeah.
actually creating that accessibility where you can feel like you're celebrating, you can pick up the phone, you can send a Slack,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. It sounds easy, but companies still don't do it. So
No.
that's the thing.
Yeah, man. And look, I do believe kind of in a hybrid, even though I've been remote, I do kind of believe in a hybrid model. I love going, Josh and I'll go to Vegas or Oakland, Virginia. We'll do it like at least once a month, right? We'll get in. Next week, there's a bunch of us that are going into the Databricks convention in San Francisco, and we'll pull some time just to do some team kind of stuff. I like face to face. I think it's important. But there's that kind of mixture, kind of right. Like if you're going to do your home thing, then have your home thing. Make sure it's like a dedicated office, right? No distractions,
Yeah.
and then reach out to people like Slack chat. Take a walk, right? Get out, do something. Take advantage of having like where you're not stuck in a place where you can't do those things.
Yeah, from a business point of view, I know, I completely agree. It gives you the access to the best talent. So when you're delivering for your clients, you can give confidence that you've gone out and you found the best people and you work with the best people, right? And then it's just about getting your internal processes to work to make sure you keep them, isn't it? Ultimately, yeah. But that's the same with any organization. You could be in the office.
You could be in the office, right? And that's exactly how it should. For me, that has worked at a high level of success. Is that my teams like when I went back from the UK, or sorry, from Microsoft to Rackspace, I never moved to San Antonio. I had 60 people, right? The reported most in San Antonio. Um, Honestly, when I went to San Antonio, Nick, I got a lot less work done because I pile up all my meetings. But man, I can guarantee you the weeks that I wasn't in San Antonio, my team knew exactly where like we were felt like we were together, right? From me chat and like, I'm on my phone again. This is part about being a C level if you're a startup. I'm sorry, but you're always on. That's the gig, right? If you don't want to be, there are other roles to do, right? But so I'm always on, right? As a executive and leader, like my job is I don't clock in at 9, um, that kind of thing. And I don't clock out at 5 either. So
Just don't
like,
ever
but
clock
that
in and clock out. You're on. That's it.
whatever it is. Like, and I look, I do believe that you do your time and stuff like that, and take good personal time. My wife, my son, and my daughter, stuff like that. We have a great time, right? But like when someone needs me in the company or a client, like, hey, I can text, hey, I can't answer right now, but I'll get you in 30.
I think, and that's balance, right? And I think,
Yeah,
you've got to be committed, you've got to be focused, you've got to be on it. But I think that's important, and it gives you a great life. You can be wherever you want, right? And that's what you're doing.
yeah.
Yeah,
I,
unless you come to
I,
London.
you know what? I am overdue. I still talk to my guy, Jonathan Liu, twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday. Met this morning. Haven't worked together since 2019. Yeah, like I love it, man. London's a special place.
It's certainly a good place indeed. Well, look, this has been fantastic. I'm really keen to keep learning, seeing what you guys are doing over there. It's great talking to you, seeing how passionate you are about working in this new space and taking all those skills to help grow the business and help to, cure those sort of pain points for your customers. So we'll have to keep talking about it for sure.
I would appreciate that, Nick. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for the opportunity.
Fantastic. See you again soon.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I truly hope you got to take away something valuable. This episode was brought to you by Asobi. I'm the founder and managing director, and it's our goal to connect the very best talent in the most exciting scale-ups in AI, ML, and the DC space. If you're looking for more practical advice or just some inspiration from those that have been there and done it, stay with us. We're going to be releasing new episodes every week, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast and follow Asobi on LinkedIn so you don't miss a thing.